If you're selling your home in New Jersey, don't ignore these closing costs. Before we go over the closing costs, of course, I want to mention that I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial advisor. I am a real estate agent that's giving you information based on my experience over the course of 15 plus years. The first is your attorney fee. 99% of sellers in New Jersey will hire an attorney to represent them, and we certainly recommend you do that. Attorney fees typically range from $1,500 to $2,500, so they average around $2,000. That's something to keep in mind. The next item is any unpaid taxes that are due to the city through the date of which your closing takes place. Typically, you pay your taxes quarterly, and you may have paid them for the prior quarter, but there could be a few days or weeks where there are unpaid taxes. The next item is mailing fees for any attorney or title company paperwork. So as the paperwork gets signed, typically gets mailed, a lot of times overnighted from the attorney to the title company or from the seller's attorney to the buyer's attorney, and there's small fees for that. All of the mailing fees in total could add up to about a couple $100s. If you have a tenant at your property, one of the items you'll see on the closing disclosures is the transfer of their security deposit to the new owner. And therefore, that would be a closing cost that exists on your closing statement. If there was an inspection on your home, and rather than fix anything that was wrong, you had agreed to a credit to the buyers, then any of those inspection credits would be reflected on the closing statement and would come out of your seller proceeds. The next item is New Jersey transfer tax. Anytime you sell a property in New Jersey, the seller is responsible to pay a transfer tax. And you can go online, just search for New Jersey transfer tax and see the calculator, which can calculate how much you owe to the state. Typically, it's around 1%. The next item is mansion tax. Now, there was a big change introduced and passed in July of 2025, where the responsibility for who pays mansion tax was shifted from the buyer to the seller. Mansion tax is a tax in New Jersey on all homes sold for $1 million or more. And historically, there was a 1% tax paid by the buyer. However, as of July of 2025, there's a new tiered structure to mansion tax. And the way it works is if the property is sold for $1 to $2 million, the seller will pay 1% mansion tax. $2 to $2.5 million, 2%, $2.5 to $3 million, 2.5%, $3 to $3.5 million, 3%, and $3.5 million plus will be 3.5% mansion tax. Now again, this is on top of your New Jersey state transfer tax, on top of the other closing costs we mentioned, and on top of our last item to discuss, which is real estate commissions. Now, real estate commissions are negotiable, and you can decide that you don't want to pay a buyer's agent their commission. However, when dealing with sellers, we always recommend that you incentivize both parties to get the deal done and to drive up the value of the property. Typically, real estate commissions are around 5 or 6%, and again, that includes the buyer's agent commission and listing agent commission, which gets split in the transaction. Now that we've discussed all the closing costs, let's try to quantify what they look like in total. Typically, when you sell a property, you're looking, inclusive of real estate commissions, around 6 to 7% of the purchase price in closing costs. However, if your property that you're selling is $1 million or more, then you have the added mansion tax on top of that. You can imagine that if you're selling a $4 million home, you already have to pay all these other closing costs of 6% or so, and then you have the added mansion tax of 3.5%, and this has really frustrated a lot of sellers. But it's very important to understand this up front for when you go to price the property and market it, and make sure that you achieve the highest possible sale, and that's where you want to call someone like ourselves to get you there. So as a seller, you really want to make sure you understand all of these costs and the implications it could have to you on the return for the sale of your property. These are also items you can discuss with your accountant to figure out the tax implications of the sale of your property. It's best you be prepared, and it's best you work with an experienced agent that can guide you through this process.